What does Pope Francis's apology mean for Indigenous people? If you're wondering what the apology from Pope Francis for the involvement of the Catholic Church with the Canadian residential schools and what it actually means for Indigenous people, then keep on watching. Hi there, I'm Mallory. Welcome back to the Tribal Trade channel, where we share new videos every single week on Indigenous culture and Native teachings. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a video. Now, what does the Pope Francis apology actually mean for Indigenous people? If you are an Indigenous person trying to process your own feelings and emotions surrounding truth and reconciliation, and the formal apology from Pope Francis on behalf of the Catholic Church, then this video is for you. Or if you're an ally and you're trying to have a better understanding of your Indigenous friends or family, coworkers, or fellow community members, so that way you can help them understand or how to support Indigenous people with these major milestones that are happening, such as the apology from Pope Francis, then this video can help you do just that. Now, I asked our online community of subscribers, group members, and some close elder family members of mine to try summarize 5 of the top meanings, reactions, responses from the Pope's apology, and why you or your Indigenous friends might be feeling this way. So this is exactly what I'm going to be covering in today's video. In case you have no clue what I'm talking about here, very recently Pope Francis issued an apology for the involvement of the Catholic Church with Canada's creation of the residential school system in 1884. These residential schools were funded and operated by the Government of Canada and Catholic churches. The schools were created to make Indigenous children assimilate into Canadian culture. Children at these schools were forced to adopt into European languages, religions, and routines, basically forcing them to abandon their culture, language, cultural beliefs, and way of life. Experiences at these schools were often traumatic and still impact the lives of many adult Indigenous people today. Now, what exactly is an apology? An apology is a regretful acknowledgment of an offense or failure. So the issued apology from Pope Francis meant a lot of different things for Indigenous people and for Indigenous communities. In today's video, I'm breaking down these 5 different feelings that are likely experienced by Indigenous people that you have in your life. Now, keep in mind that these are not mutually exclusive from each other, meaning that if someone is feeling one thing, it doesn't mean that the other feelings aren't there or aren't therefore excluded. It's possible to have mixed emotions or experience an emotional roller coaster and things that are very serious like this or highly damaging and traumatic. So today's video can help you if you are an Indigenous person trying to process your own feelings and your own emotions surrounding truth and reconciliation. This video can help you if you are an ally as well. If you're trying to have a better understanding of what your Indigenous friends or family are going through, of coworkers that are Indigenous or fellow community members. This can help you to support Indigenous people more by seeing multiple sides of the situations. None of these reactions are wrong, and they're all different from each other. Now here we go. These are the 5 biggest reactions for what the Pope Francis apology means for Indigenous people. The first feeling or reaction that the Pope Francis apology created was an extreme sadness, pain, and despair. Now, this one might seem like the most obvious or captures the most attention at least. Now, why would that be? Why would the apology cause you to feel sadness or despair? Well, for many reasons, it shines light on the truth and validation that these events actually occurred, right? Let me know in the comments if you believe this. When you think of when you receive an apology from someone, the most basic response is sadness or anxiety, because it can bring you back to the experience that the person is apologizing for. Apologies in general do not make the pain go away. They just acknowledge that a wrongdoing took place. Now, the second reaction many Indigenous people have felt is anger and resentment. Now, some reasons that people might experience anger and resentment towards Pope Francis or towards Indigenous, non-Indigenous people in general regarding the apology might just be that anger is one of the strongest negative emotions that can come from trauma and can come from a negative experience. Another thing, I'm not sure if you actually watched the formal apology on video, but if you did, you will know, or if you've seen a photo, that Pope Francis was awarded with a headdress. If you haven't watched this video right here that we created on the meaning of the North American Indigenous headdress, a headdress is a sign of the utmost respect given to either a chief or a warrior or someone who really is deserving of such recognition. Now, I think that a lot of the people that experienced anger and resentment in the presentation of the headdress to Pope Francis could be because it sort of invalidates the symbol that the headdress possesses in Indigenous cultures. Let me know if you agree with this. If you're someone who has experienced anger or resentment when you've seen any of these photos, please let me know in the comments below. Now, what are your thoughts about the apology of Pope Francis to the residential school victims? Let me know in the comments below. Now on to the third reaction or meaning of the apology. The third reaction Indigenous people have often been feeling when watching the Pope Francis apology was annoyance or basic rejection of the apology, saying it didn't mean anything, I don't care, I don't want to watch that. Sometimes this can be a reaction from being disinterested, and sometimes this reaction can be a sense of denial or avoiding the situation entirely. This is often something that we do in human nature when something is so painful or causes us such negative emotions that we just choose to avoid it and choose not to deal with it. Many of these emotions are quite negative. How do you take the positive effects of these experiences though? That's what we love to talk about at Tribal Trade. That's one of my favorite things is resilience. And how can you be positive? How can you be resilient? Being able to see the upside, the positive things behind everything. And honestly, this was my reaction to the Pope Francis apology was satisfaction. And not satisfaction for the apology itself, but for the fact that this event would bring a lot of attention to the fact that there was severe injustice towards Indigenous people that would make more people in the world aware of the truth that Indigenous people have endured from this country's creation and from colonization in general. So there are positive reactions too, is what I'm getting at. Which brings us to the fourth reaction some Indigenous people have experienced from the Pope Francis apology is positivity and satisfaction. These have been communicated to me as well, not specifically from watching the apology, but for the news coverage that would bring this story, that would capture people's attention to the truth of Indigenous injustices. If you're like me and you really try to focus on the positive outcomes of any situation, tell me if you are a part of this fourth group and you feel satisfaction and positivity, the fact that people will be more aware of Indigenous truth, of truth and reconciliation as a result of the Pope Francis apology. Now this brings us to our fifth reaction or meaning behind the Pope Francis apology to Indigenous people, which is humor. Now, of course, laughter is medicine in so many situations. It's very common in many Indigenous communities to use humor as a coping mechanism, especially if you've experienced trauma, generational trauma, or any negative experiences. Humor is a very common way to cope with it. I'm sure you've likely seen a few memes out there that have a humorous spin on the Pope Francis apology. I'm going to share a few links below in case you're looking for something that could make you smile. However, some people feel like bringing humor to this type of conversation is extremely disrespectful. So if you're one of those people, then you can just move on. Are you a non-Indigenous person wanting to support Indigenous people and communities? If so, you probably care about being what we call an Indigenous ally. But how can you know if you are actually an Indigenous ally? or if you're doing a good job of being an ally. If you're wanting to know if you are a good Indigenous ally, you can answer 7 quick questions that will tell you how you're doing in supporting Indigenous people, what type of ally you are, and what you can do to be an even better ally for Indigenous people and for Indigenous communities. I can't wait for you to see what results you get. Once you get your results, please let me know what type of ally you are and share this with your other ally friends so that we can all work together towards strengthening the community of Indigenous allies. If you like this video, please let me know what you liked about it in the comments below. Let me know what of the 5 reactions resonated with you the most. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe all of the reactions resonated with you, which is completely understandable. Please remember that if you're someone who is experiencing sadness and anger and also humor, and also you're seeing the positive sides of it too, that's completely okay. I'm going to share some links down below in case you are needing some support in dealing with some of these issues. I thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you so much for your support. I love you all. Chimigwech, and have an amazing day.